Hello, my friends. I'm not sure. Took me a second to get in there. How is everyone doing today? We got a great show for you with episode 15 of Learn TA with Landy. We're going to get into some real TA. Finally, Landy's going to let us in on what he really is investing in. Let's bring him on in.
What's up, Peace? How are you this
doing,
morning?
Landy? I'm doing fantastic. Great. It's afternoon where I am.
Well, I mean, it's still the morning for me. Out here on the West Coast, we're living in the past a little bit. And, I'm really jazzed about Liberation Day coming up. I've been really giving some hard thought to how I'm positioned in the first to second quarter transition. So, I made a big decision today. I full ported from Bitcoin into meme coins. And so it's the Bitcoiner side of me is dead. I am moving. I've already moved everything to meme coins now, and my number one play is what I want to talk about today. We're gonna do a little bit of analysis on one of, if not the greatest memes in history. And look, actually, it's a really strong meme, believe it or not. So it is. It's a good play for me here. I'm all about buying them lows and loading up my bags. I'm not just 99.9% meme coins now. I'm 100% meme coins. And
you're not holding a little bit of Bitcoin back?
No, nothing. Everything has been. I've literally full ported everything to memes. I need to shout out my mentor, Enoch, and he really showed me the way. He is now my financial advisor. He's helping me manage my portfolio and get some good leg day workouts in. So I'm ready for this new future and the new me.
Wow, really? I'm curious to hear what your so all right. So what do you're going all memes?
Yes, right? I'm a meme coin maxi now. Yeah. Unfortunately, I sold all of my Bitcoin miners. They're gone.
Wow.
That's I actually took a mortgage on all of my homes now that were paid off. And
actually, I knew you mentioned to me you were talking to your mom about that like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and she gave me really good advice. She said, honey, do what you love. And if you really love memes, just go for it. You only live once. And she's got experience. She's older these days. She's been around a little bit. I can't wait until Bank of America is willing to give me a loan on my meme coins now that they can hold it on their books as an asset. So I'm looking to go, into Bank of America and just get a loan, to take a loan out 90% LTV and really utilize some of this cash that I got sitting in memes now.
It makes sense, actually. There's going to be demand for across the board for the real memes that really drive hard.
It's interesting because the meme that I'm going to show you today is likely going to usurp Bitcoin in terms of market cap, and Bitcoin will be the number 2 asset in the world behind this particular coin. And it's a little bit risky, but I took risks when I first entered crypto. Bitcoin, being the first meme coin with no real value, an empty, vacant network with nothing on it and nothing to do, not even fungible, I've heard. And it turns out they were all truths being spoken, and so I took a risk anyway, and I benefited a lot by being early. So I'm ahead of the curve here. I'm being early to something that I think is just going to, just do really well going into the future. And I just sometimes I just have to sit back and smell the roses, and it's just one of those things. I have to bask in the glory of what is becoming and not what has been. So, I've now been unburdened by what has been, and Bitcoin was really weighing me down. My bags were very heavy. They were, kind of carrying them around everywhere. All those different, you know, all those different, all those different thumb drives from the early days, hard drives, and now, even some of these smaller air gap devices. They're just really weighing me down. So, I'm on a centralized exchange now, and I'm buying the top meme coins, and I'm going to at the first moment that I possibly can take out my 90% LTV loans on them.
90%.
90% LTV. Yeah, I mean, why? I mean, go big or go home, right? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It's not like they're going to come to my house. They can't. This is this is a centralized exchange. But they're not going to come to my house. Piece. It's okay. Now, I really do want to give a big shout out to our banking overlords, the Bank of Americas, the Wells Fargos of the world. I just can't wait until. Yes, exactly. Here's the thing. I really believe that if I'm ahead of the curve and I give my crypto to the bank and I then take out a 90% LTV, I can then use that to buy more of those same meme coins. And it's definitely going to work out for me in the future.
Oh, you can just keep doing that over and over.
Yeah,
again.
over and over. And then the more meme coins that I buy with that, then I give that to the bank and then I take a loan against that. Yeah, see? And this
it's almost like creating fiat, but everyone gets to do their own.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, I gotta be honest with you. This is kind of the secret sauce. This is the actual infinite money glitch that we've all been looking for. And why don't we bring it up? The first coin, I really do think hits home. It really gasses me up, and I'm ready to go. I mean, look, this is a chart that
this
not
is
only
obviously going back up. I can tell just by looking at it.
Well, it's in higher low structure, and this coin is going to rip, and I really do believe this. And by the way, all jokes aside, it's probably gonna rip. Like,
oh yeah,
so
it is. I don't know. Do you think it has a legitimate chance to actually touch the
actually rip? Yeah, I mean, it literally we could do like some real actual TA on this meme coin. It's got enough history. It's bouncing off the daily here. And it's looking to it's in higher low structure. It came out of a nice little reaccumulation down here. And let me tell you something. It's strong. It actually is strong. Like, this is me actually not joking. This is actually a strong meme coin in this regard.
You were talking about how heavy your bags were, and so this would be lighter than air, per se.
Yeah, I mean, this really puts the pep in your step at the end of the day, right? Gives you a little boost, helps you feel better. I just feel it like in the pit of my stomach. I felt like I had to go for Fartcoin. Now, full disclosure, all jokes aside, I actually do own some of this. And I actually did buy some of this damn low. So that's not the April Fool's joke right there. I actually did buy some of this. The funny part is when you get enough history and you take a look at some of these and you go for the holder count and you see kind of this got 128,000 holders on chain here. We've got a nice double low on the weekly here, double bottoms coming in. Will this hold up? Who knows? I have no idea. Most of the meme coins went down so much.
Shout out GPSC and Reese, who said hi in the chat. And
what's
also
up, GP?
Remind people that if you have questions about the TA, please don't hesitate to engage in the chat. That's what it's there for.
Whoa. You kind of got chopped and screwed there. We're doing the remix version of Peace over here.
Oh, can you hear me now?
There you are.
All right.
Gotcha.
I was just saying, engage in the live chat and ask questions if you have them. That's what it's there for.
Yep. Yeah, sure. And, realistically, we're starting out by looking at a meme coin right here. I actually do genuinely believe that meme coins are going to have a nice run. Again, I mean, you don't go 90% down and then not have some good gains from that speculation, especially with larger holder counts. And you can actually start to TA certain coins that have longer history. But in reality, we all know that we're actually not here for meme coins. And I do hold meme coins for the record, and I do like a lot of meme coins, and I did get back in on some of them. So yeah, there is that. But we're gonna go ahead and share some real TA for today. So we're gonna get into a little bit of macro TA ahead of Liberation Day.
And listen, I don't judge anybody's tokens, by the way. I know we were doing a bit and all that, and Landy is definitely not selling all of his Bitcoin for meme tokens.
That you know of. I don't know. I'm Landy.eth.soul on X now, so you never know.
Was that all just to be a clever April Fool's joke?
No, it's an ongoing joke about how I hate memes that started I think on David Gokhstein's show and is extended to Nobu's show at night, has even started to permeate some other spaces that I go to. So the joke is that I'm a Bitcoin maxi and I hate meme coins. So a little bit of leaning into it's always fun. And the reality is memes this past cycle, and I've said this the other day. I had the chance to go on David Gokhstein's show, and a big shout out to him for having me on, and a big thank you to him and the team over there at Gokhstein Media as well. They, we had a really good conversation where I had mentioned that memes ran with Bitcoin, and they continue to move up with Bitcoin even when alts are under assault. And now obviously there's been some altcoins that have done very, very, very well and made new all-time highs. One chain in particular, Solana, with the wonderful fart coin over there, have done really well and made new all-time highs. But they've been few and far between because it's been Bitcoin season, right? And let's go ahead and share. Sorry, I abruptly ended that share, but we'll share the actual Bitcoin longer term time frame chart here, and we'll kind of talk about this in a real and in a non-jokey April 1st kind of way. But meme coins, I've postulated this for a while, that they were a big middle finger to the SEC, and because they meme coins, kind of the ethos behind them is they have no utility, they have no promise of return, right? And it was kind of like we were thumbing our nose at the SEC, like, go ahead and try to come after us over this bullshit. And then you get into this the actual meme coins that did really well, and then ticker season, where there was a lot of tickers that launched that were very extractive, but the memes are still going to survive. The real memes with the real communities and the real large holder bases are going to be just fine. And then more interesting part about that is every time that Bitcoin moved, memes moved, right? And they moved and outran Bitcoin for quite a while in terms of their percentage gains. Obviously, it's very easy to do when coins start out from zero, but they, many of them launched to billions of dollars. And, when Bitcoin went down, they retraced. When Bitcoin went up, they pumped just hellaciously to the upside. And I thought it was very interesting, that Bitcoin dominance has been pretty high the whole time, right? And memes have done pretty well. And then you had some outlier alts that were running. Obviously, Solana was the beneficiary of having a lot of memes on it, right? And being kind of the place to go to launch meme tokens. And there's quite a few. For as extractive as it became over time, kind of with the tickers launching every day, we got we did actually get some legitimate memes that came out of that, right? And even some undervalued ones. And I'll be honest with you, on the kind of meme coin bear market, which you could classify what meme coins are in right now as a bear market, from a technical point of view. There's actually some good plays there. And so and we know this, obviously. You and I primarily hanging out in the Stacks ecosystem and also in the broader Bitcoin ecosystem. There's memes on Bitcoin, there's memes on Stacks, right? And we saw the same kind of thing for a while on those chains. Now things have changed, right? Bitcoin is now dominating in terms of its dominance, right? It is continuing to head up, and I think right now it's very important, especially the first or second quarter transition, that we pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing, and it's going to tell us throughout the rest of this second quarter what is in store for not just Bitcoin but the wider crypto market, and might even be reflecting what we're going to see in terms of traditional markets. So we'll take a look at this quarterly here. And one of the bigger things that you've probably seen if you watch my videos is that Bitcoin has been up and to the right on the quarterly. Beautiful structure, higher highs, higher lows, and with the exception of a lower high close here. Now, when you go all the way back to the beginning of Bitcoin, this is the index chart. And we look at its run up into 2011 and subsequent low, which funny enough is right around when I got in, was pretty much perfect timing when I got in, which, by the way, I wasn't actually looking at. There wasn't too much to chart outside of dailies at that point, and weeklies, but it was a very it was risky. It was, I didn't know what was going to happen with this thing. I was taking a chance, and I put in some money and got into mining and stuff like that. So, but we had higher high, higher low structure, and this continued even with this nice double bottom on the swings here back in 15 as it came out into 16, 2017 run. We got our first real actual closing lower high here in 2019. We then got another closing lower high, of course, in 2021, leading into 2022. Now, of course, that was with a higher high swing and failure. And one of the things that I've noted here on Learn TA with Landy and Peace Love Music here, we've gone over like my core ethos of what you need to understand before you dive into any specific technical analysis systems, and that is trend, support and resistance, volatility, and momentum. And we can see here that Bitcoin is in an uptrend on the quarterly, right? So we had a little bit of a downtrend. We had a lower high to a higher low. So we had the beginnings of a full-on reversal here on the court. It didn't happen, right? So this was, a lower high into a higher low in the macro scale. We then came up, made a higher high, another swing higher low, higher highs. So we have an uptrend on the quarterly, right? And in this case, when looking at support and resistance, it's pretty easy to take a look at the quarterly and kind of understand where we are, right? And you can even take kind of the close open of the prior quarterly all-time high from last cycle at, what was this coming in? Just shy of $59,000. And then, of course, we've got the most recent quarterly high. that before putting in the all-time high here at 73,757. Now it's 73,835 on spot. Index prices aggregating everything for us. But in this case, we have a big area of quarterly interest down here should Bitcoin begin to fall. But we also have, in terms of volatility, the upper first standard deviation coming in line right here with the prior cycle all-time high. And, we have the basis band now creeping up to the bottom side of this higher low swing, which is at $49,000. This quarterly is sitting at around 45,600 or so for the basis band. So in terms of volatility, we're seeing, bullish signs still. In terms of support and resistance, it's still bullish. In terms of trend, it is bullish. It is a bull market after all. And one of the key things to note here is we've talked about volatility, compression, and expansion. And if we look at the Bollinger Bands, which is what I've been teaching you to use for metrics and areas of interest to keep an eye on for conditions related to volatility, expansion, and contraction. Well, the basis band is the 20 simple. So it's looking back 20 candles and aggregating the average price, right? And that is your basis band, your 20 simple moving average. And we see that.
Remind everybody, you can get the Landy bands at the QR code in the top corner, or there's a link in Landy's profile on X.
Yes,
Landy, who you should be
and
following.
It's free.
Free indicator to give you all a lot of tools. Actually, is some really cool things on there.
Yeah, there's obviously the Bollinger Band set, the triple Bollinger Band set. There's moving averages built in that you can turn on and off and customize between SMA and EMA. You can also customize the length. You can customize if labels are showing. So you know which EMA is which, if you forgot which colors they were, which you can also change. There's all kinds of stuff in there. So definitely, especially if you have one of the lower tier or the basic tier trading view plans, this indicator's got a bunch of stuff that you can turn on and off. So, you are limited on how many indicators you can have for a lot of those plans. And in this case, you get a bunch of indicators in one, and it's free. You just have to add it to your favorites, and then you can add it to your chart. Now, in this case, for the Bollinger Bands, after the 20 simple began to populate, right? What we got was our first compression coming out of the lows into the actual bull market run 16 to 17. We saw our first compression. Now, one of the things that we saw was compression to expansion in this case. The easiest way to look at this on the quarterly is just to, because it is, a little bit harder to see, especially because it's got a lot of history and things are kind of compressing over time in terms of returns. What we have here is the lower first. You can always tell when we're getting expansion on the quarterly because the lower first drops right off the screen. Basically saying that during this expansion phase, it's impossible to hit that. It's lower first standard deviation as the basis band begins to pick up, go up into the right with price closing above the upper second and third. We're getting full expansion on the quarterly, and we see from essentially the 15 lows into the 17 highs, we have the expansion, and then we get compression into 18 and 19. You see that when the lower first is coming back up the screen here. And then once we begin to break out above the upper second and third standard deviation, we get the lower first just dropping right off the screen. And you might note something here that has not occurred yet. We have not seen full-on expansion on the quarterly yet. So this is one of the things that is a bit of a counterpoint to those that say this was the run. This was it. It's a full-on bear market from here. Now, does that mean necessarily that we won't see bearish price action? No. But what this is telling me is that Bitcoin is loading up the volatility bazooka. And it's on a quarterly time frame, which can take a while to play out. What are the conditions for us hitting full expansion on the quarterly? closes above the upper second, at least 2 consecutive closes above there that can also start closing above that upper third, will do it. That will start to pick up volatility. We'll start to see the lower first dropping off the map here, or at minimum moving down as these bands expand to the upside. We'll see the lower first, as it's the only one that's populated at this point for the downside. Standard deviations away from the 20 simple hour basis band here. We'll see that one drop off and start to expand down while these bands expand up. And while playing in this zone of volatility, we do have some interesting levels to pay attention to. I just mentioned that the upper first is right at the prior all-time high. That's also in a big, daily, weekly accumulation, and it's the high side accumulation from from last year, where we basically went 6 months or more sideways and down before legging up to the current areas where price action is trading for Bitcoin in this case. And this tells me that if we do start seeing closes above the upper second in this case, around $93,000, $93,200, it will oscillate ever so slightly if Bitcoin does put in a green candle or is trading intra-quarter, meaning while the quarter is still open here, the quarterly session is still open, we will see these numbers kind of shift around between the upper second and upper first. But we're kind of within that zone of volatility, and we can then drop to lower term timeframes to gauge, where what is more likely going to happen towards the end of the quarter. So if we are seeing closes above that upper second at 93,200, then we're playing in between the volatility range between the upper second and upper third and above, right? So that would be between our 93,200 and right around 117. Now, if Bitcoin does put in a nice green candle this quarter, you'll see this upper third likely somewhere around $120,000. So, and I will say that I need to see closes above that upper second, and then an additional close above the upper second, pushing and or closing above that upper third to actually initiate quarterly expansion. And this tells me, by the way, if you look at how long this has been consolidating, right? This has been consolidating since, we've gotten a nice sideways and up consolidation and nice bull market. But in terms of volatility, this is still a compression in terms of price action. And you see that it really started to occur right here in January of 2022, right? Right before the big bear market lower high on the monthly that was confirming yep, this is a lower high. Watch those lows. When they break, it's a full-on breakdown. And then we can start, targeting some of the bottom side structures that build over time. And when we relate this to kind of where the monthly is, I want to point out that we had on the monthly our first ever, we had our compression to expansion. We had our little double top there with the wick right to the upper second standard deviation. And then we had, our higher low fail on a close, but nice higher low swing to swing lower high and closing lower high. This never closed the actual higher low here, but instead swung right up and went right into lower highs, and then bear market down with its first ever expansion below the lower first and pushing down to that lower second standard deviation. Got its first ever downside expansive structure. Mean reverted back to the basis. Got some compression here. You can note this by looking at the bottom bands, lower second, lower third, kind of coming into the compression. And right before breaking the bear market lower high, we started to get that expansion again above the upper second and third. A little bit of mean reversion, reaching for that basis as it was headed up for the monthly. And we saw this nice expansion. But as it was consolidating last year, what happened? Compression. We got a little bit of expansion as we pushed back to the upper second. This is when, last summer, I was saying on the lows, very highly likely this is going to put in a higher low, because at that point, the last higher low was down here at $25,000, right? So we were looking for a higher low, even if it did drop further last year. But what I was mentioning is that this was going back into a compression, and then we have to be aware of that upper second and upper third standard deviation on the monthly time frame, because this is now looking like it's going to recompress, and that is actually what we're getting. So when you combine the monthly going back into a consolidation or sideways and up compression while in a bull market with the quarterly that hasn't even kicked off true Bollinger Band expansion and volatility expansion to the upside, this lends to something that I talked about last year, which was lengthening cycles for Bitcoin. You notice that I'm saying for Bitcoin and not crypto. And what has happened thus far? It's been Bitcoin season the entire time. Yes, we've seen alts pop. Yes, we've seen memes pop, but we have not seen a true dominance top and drawdown yet. It's just been Bitcoin season the whole way through, with a little crime season and a little alt season in between, but it's still been Bitcoin season. So when I look at this kind of stuff, I can start to form a thesis. If we see price move down to the basis, which just so happens to be at $65,000, you'll note that the upper first standard deviation on the quarterly we just looked at was at $69,000. So that was the upper first for the quarterly was right here. The basis band for the monthly is right here at the first high from 2021. So we have two major confluences with our band levels at the upper first for the quarterly at 69, and then the basis band or 20 simple moving average for the monthly is at 65. Bitcoin is now playing in this zone, and this zone is basically between the upper first and the basis band. That is now going to be around $86,000 to $87,000 by the upper first to that 65. And if we were to now extrapolate that down to the daily and start to take a look at pure price action and some of the prior accumulation here on the daily, which is not loading. What are we doing here? There it is. There it is. So, God bless you. Holy crap. That was a big sneeze in the background there for me. Got the kids home for vacation.
Nice. Very nice. I didn't hear it. So your noise cancellation is working well, sir.
That thing echoed in the house. But if we were to go ahead and take a look at the zone of interest here down below, where price action is currently trading, we can see that we have a lower high. Didn't quite close the lower high, which was giving us our edge that if it didn't close the lower high, we might be in for at minimum a higher low swing. We ended up getting that back here, but this last close open lower high swing here, you could call it at 65,600 to the 73,835 is technically fair game from a volatility perspective, right? And we see that on the macro scale. And this is where, the weekly there's nothing saying that it has to go and hit these areas, but that's on the table. And while Bitcoin is living below this this range up here, where we have the higher low to lower high close, higher high swing overhead, it's more likely that it will hit some of these areas to the downside. And, we need to be cognizant of kind of where the important areas are to the upside, right? For the index here, didn't quite get, where did the index get to? Yeah, so 88,800. This swing was a little bit lower on spot at $89,000. So these, we've basically gotten an initial test on the weekly of this higher low swing up here. And now that we have, a good understanding of where we are in the macro time frames, we can really start to extrapolate down to, like this weekly and go more general and then refine as we go lower time frames on what our conditions are. And, we're just trapped in between now macro overhead resistance here on the weekly. And and then macro support down below. And as long as Bitcoin is trading below the lows of this range up here around 93.5, especially on a weekly, then it's going to be more, and that doesn't mean that price can't play into these areas, but I'm talking about on a weekly time frame. If it's not closing back above this higher low swing and close open up here, then it's more angled to come and test these areas down below. And of course you can refine with the highs here on the weekly and the dailies and so on and so forth. But it is now, what does that mean? When looking at the macro that's still in a bullish structure, looking at the weekly, which is in a break of trend structure, the only real conclusion that we can pull from this is that this is a consolidation and a bullish one until proven otherwise. And then we can say, okay, well, where would this be proven otherwise? For the monthly, that's going to be the easiest one, especially because, of course, we will get our quarterly closes much later. But if we start to see this last higher low on the monthly taken out on a close at $59,000, that wouldn't look good, right? That doesn't mean that things won't go up or they just go straight down. It just means that would not be a good look, breaking the close open structure on the monthly. There's always the potential that it could swing down below it and maybe close slightly below it and then rocket right back up. But then the chances of putting in a lower high or a swing fail above this high are very, very high at that point on the monthly. But the real swing breakdown is at $49,000. So that's where things would really get nasty. Still, again, doesn't mean that things wouldn't go back up. But it also means that likely over for a while if it were to break structure in that manner. The other scenario is we put in another higher low and we pump back to the highs, but fail to close above 109, 350, 360 area. Well, that would look just like what we saw back here in 2021. So higher low, pumps right back to the highs, even makes a higher high close, but fails to close above $65,000. That would be the other bearish scenario. So for those saying like it's over, all my signals are saying this is confirmed, they're front running. And likely engagement farming, right? It's structurally, this is a bull market. And structurally, this is just another higher high on the monthly. Are there concerning signals longer term? Sure. But are those signals saying like, oh, hey, the bull market is over? We're in for a nasty long bear market. I would say no. We're still in a compression phase or a consolidation phase in terms of volatility levels of interest and compression of price action on a quarterly time frame. And what comes after compression, no matter what? Expansion. Now, which way does it expand, right? You have a limited asset in terms of how many coins there will ever be. You have increasing demand on diminishing circulating supply while the inflation rate is coming down every 4 years. So just doing the math on that gives me a very bullish outlook on Bitcoin. Now, for other cryptos, well, they're going to go through some long form accumulation. And I'll hop over to Ethereum real quick. We don't really talk about Ethereum a lot.
I'd love to. I'd love to see what your opinion is, or just what the charts look like.
Well, we'll go ahead and we're going to get rid of all this for just a moment here. We're going to go to a quarterly. We're going to turn on the Bollinger Bands. And what this is telling me, as it's very still, ETH is young, right? In terms of Coinbase listed in 2016, we can go to ETH on the index chart as well. And when you look back here in 15, kind of when it's beginning charted history, traded history, you see that it's breaking down from its basis band right now. But it's also been in a compression and continues to be in a compression. So an accumulation phase, a reaccumulation, a range. And what this tells me is you have to look at then the fundamentals of the coin, right? The network. What are they doing in terms of supply? That's the big thing, right? Are they increasing supply or decreasing supply? Because it's not like Bitcoin where we have very clear cadences for what is happening with supply. And the fact of the matter is Ethereum is not as in demand by the bigger players as Bitcoin. So obviously it's going to take a back seat. It's the second largest crypto asset in the world. There's many usurpers to this particular crown at this point that are gunning for it, whether you're talking about Solana or XRP or many others that want to lay claim to the second place crown. And in this case, this has a lot of history. Now it has a lot of price history. And this was indicating back here in... That is not what I wanted. I want the shapes. It was indicating back here when it put in the highs in April of 2024. This was a lower high in the quarterly, that this was going to go for consolidation. I remember talking about this, but obviously we weren't doing this show at the time. And, talking on spaces or some of those videos are kind of a distant memory for many. But when it put in that quarterly high, and that being a lower high on not just a swing, but also a close, that it was very concerning, looking as though this was going to go sideways and potentially further down for more accumulation. And when it does pop, it's going to pop hard, right? It's that unless there is something that is fundamentally wrong with the supply or the chain, but realistically, it's the second crypto spot ETF in traditional markets. It's very in demand and it's being accumulated by larger players. It's being built on. Obviously, there's conjecture about the layer 2s are vampiring the layer 1. That's why price isn't moving. Vitalik is meowing at robots and, just doing really weird stuff. And those are all valid things. But, Vitalik really doesn't. He's not the CEO.
He's not the driving force of Ethereum.
Yeah, he has a lot of input and he's very influential, obviously.
Sure,
still.
But if he's the one that has to be developing it all, it's not. There's a huge community building on Ethereum that's permissionless outside of anything Vitalik has to say about it.
Exactly. And this is something where could it come down further? Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've talked about the areas of interest below, around 1800, and even, slightly under there, 1800 or 1790 directly. I've talked about it in some of my videos more recently, as it has been a topic of discussion. But this is a big reaccumulation structure with compression.
Actually, and on that note, the FTX victims that are getting reimbursed in the value from when it collapsed, which the Ethereum guys are almost actually breaking out even, where Bitcoin people are getting Bitcoin at 15K.
I know, right? Maybe that's what they all wanted, because the bigger players wanted to force the market down so they could break even. Look, I mean, realistically, what I really do think about Ethereum is it's only got to take out 4,000, 4,100, start getting above obviously 5K, and it's going to run hard. And it has not hit its expansion yet. Just like Bitcoin, the two biggest players in the space have not hit their expansion yet. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this, as we got about we're probably going to have to jump here in a moment, but
actually your space has started.
Yeah, let me get to the monthly on Solana. Let's do Solana index if we can. There we go. Solana is the big one, gunning for Ethereum in terms of things that it does, in terms of capabilities, right? But kind of got pigeonholed as just a meme coin chain. And look, I'm a Bitcoin first guy, but I like Ethereum, especially some of the layer 2s, and I like Solana, and I like the DeFi ecosystems that they built. It's one of the reasons why I love what's being built on Bitcoin now in terms of DeFi ecosystems, right? Because a lot of people took what they've learned in those other DeFi ecosystems and are bringing them to Bitcoin, and that's what we want. And then there's a lot of Bitcoin first and Bitcoin only that are looking at those as examples of saying, how can we build this here, and are doing it, right? And in this case, Solana had a beautiful run, beautiful run off of its lows where it was declared dead as it was coming down through 2022. Once it hit that low, went sideways in through 23 and popped up with Bitcoin. And ran with Bitcoin harder than most, right? Had a nice expansive move up initially, and guess what? It's back in on the monthly. It's back in a compression. Now, if you're bearish, you would say, oh, well, this compression is going to result in expansion to the downside, and we're looking at really low prices. And then you take a look at kind of where even this monthly comes in at $82 here, the lower first. I'm telling you, bigger players are in this game. They want a Solana ETF, right? A spot ETF. That is already being proposed by some of the biggest players on the planet. While they would probably love to accumulate lower and launch that and use other people's money to accumulate lower, this thing is in a compression, coming off of a massive run, proved its worth in the meme coin sector, already has DeFi. It's going to perform really well. It's not in the same type of macro structure on a quarterly that, of course, Ethereum or Bitcoin or anything else is, because it's barely just populating, which, by the way, its basis band on the quarterly, just above $80. It's barely just populating its history for the quarterly, looking back 20 quarters, right? So we have to go to even like a 2-month. This is, again, we're getting that mid 80s area of interest to the downside as a potential, not a foregone conclusion. But everything is loading up. It's like, I can't look at Solana right now and be bearish on Solana in the longer term or for a very long time. I can't look at Ethereum and be bearish for the longer term or for very long from here. Same for Bitcoin, unless there is a catalyst that crashes traditional markets in a really nasty way. But I think that crypto will actually be a big beneficiary of having a lot of people onboarded very quickly, and a lot of bigger players would come into the game and turn any kind of major crash into a giant wick. And that's just kind of what everything is telling me, what everything is pointing to in the crypto space. And maybe next week we'll take a look at traditional markets, because that's actually where things are concerning. I'm not concerned about crypto, even though everybody is, and everybody's really like, why isn't Solana pumping off this big weekly support area? Ethereum broke down. It's not coming back. We got Vitalik meowing at cats and putting on weird PFPs and saying he loves communism. We've got, totally shitting on Bitcoin, even though Bitcoiners are working to bridge over to Solana. And there's always going to be a mechanism for FUD, right? Pump fund killed Solana. Pump fund ran everybody into the ground, right? Like, there's going to be that narrative that will affect every chain, and it will always affect the most successful chains first, right? Like, Solana is very successful, caught a lot of heat about pump funds and tickers. Ethereum was very successful, caught a lot of heat for the NFTs and the DeFi stuff, right? And things that were, needed to be improved there. And crypto marches on, and we're in a macro structure that is in accumulation, and we're seeing it not just on Bitcoin, but we're seeing it on two of the major players in the game here. Traditional markets are actually where things could potentially change. They're not bearish yet, but there are some warning signs there, and we'll discuss that maybe next week and take a look at those charts and why.
I mean, I'm not. It does. I don't think it looks like it's imminent about to launch, but I feel like the markets. I don't think we got a whole lot more downside testing to go, personally, based on.
I will. If maybe we get some wick fishing or something like that, or maybe a concerted move down, I will tell you, closes below $80,000 would be expansion back to this low.
Mm-hmm.
Its most recent low. Just above 75 there at 76,555 on spot, and likely targeting the top side of this prior accumulation, right? That's going to be, if we see closes on the weekly below 80, that's in the cards. If it hasn't already ran this low and hit the top side here, it's more likely that it will. Are we in for a relief rally? From the weekly perspective, we're getting there. What's the pivot? Pivot's 91.8. So, when you go down to the daily and you take a look at kind of where things are, we've got to get through some overhead resistance at, just shy of $89,000, which is that weekly high or low. And then we look just above here to 92.8 for this lower high. And then, of course, $95,000 retest of this consolidation to break down to this area are very important. So I will say that as long as Bitcoin is trading and closing candles below $95,000, especially on weekly timeframes, not that it can't make progress, but especially on weekly timeframes, I'm more of the opinion that things could continue to try to test the low side to that structure down there. But, we are getting a possible low set here. This is a lower low. After this little bit of an uptrend, this is a lower low on the daily, but it is coming on some bullish divergence between this low and this low. It's either this low or this low. I forget which one, but it's definitely this low over here and this lower low. We have some bullish divergence of RSI. We got to see momentum shift, but we always want to see a low set first. A low today would be set on close above 94,000. We want to see closes above the basis right around 95. And then what do we need to see? We need to see a recovery above right around $88,800 to $89,000. It should be reclaiming this wick. And then we've got, of course, not to get into what my video is all about from the Macro Monday here, but then we got to see 92K, and then we got to see the weekly close above 93.5, right? We have to see progress. And then there's the big test, these nice twin tower candles here that need to be taken out, which was a retest of the bottom side of that consolidation structure prior to breakdown. So below 95, I can't get overly bullish because it's all bearish retest territory until we see a recovery, especially not just on a daily above 95, but a weekly would look really, really good. And then I think we see a weekly bull flag if that were to occur. If this starts to reclaim this bottom side of this range here, especially on a weekly. So if it reclaims the bottom side here, from the weekly perspective, I think we're playing out a bull flag. Even if we get some lower highs, but some lower highs, higher low, and then boom up for the next leg. That's kind of where I stand on that. I will say that you don't want to see things happen too quickly. in terms of if things do run back to, in this case, Bitcoin back to its all-time high, or all of a sudden Ethereum gets off its ass and pumps like crazy to the upside. Solana, which retraced really hard off of an all-time high. If you see them racing back to their all-time highs very quickly, that's bearish. But if they build structure and hold their lows while trying to move back up, that's incredibly bullish. Look more like, especially for Bitcoin, it would look more like we're starting to build out a flag. And that would be that'd be cool. If this is going to be a deviation on the weekly, though, I will tell you, it's got to take out this lower high swing, obviously at 88.8, but then it's really got to just take out the all-time high. Otherwise, we need to see maybe a lower high swing, higher low swing to close, as it's relative to this last higher low. See maybe another lower high or a run to the highs, and then pull back to higher low and then boom up. That's what I would want to see. That would be healthy. If it happens too quickly, beware, 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 beware. That's going to do it for me today, buddy. I want to thank you. We did get started a little bit later, but I wanted to thank you as always, Peace. I really do enjoy hanging with you and talking to you on Tuesdays.
The pleasure is also mine, sir. I really enjoy it. I think you bring I have a much better, I can look at the charts and have a lot better understanding of what I'm looking at because of you, because of the series that you're doing. And obviously I'm the most direct beneficiary because I'm here with you for the whole show. But these are available in the playlist section of the DeOrganized YouTube channel. This is episode 15. So there's 14 prior episodes for you guys to go and learn all of the basics up until this point on how to analyze a chart and do some technical analysis, all because of this guy just kind of volunteering this stuff to help us out and bring this information to you. So thank you, Landy, for doing this with us. Always appreciate it, man. Love chatting with you. I wish we had more time, but I know you got a space to go into. I'm going to try to get some food in me before I have to go chauffeur my daughter and do some ads.
Hey, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody that tunes into these on Tuesdays. And I'm gonna jump off to a space, and I just want to again thank you very much. Peace, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll probably catch you online here in a little while.
You too, sir. I'll definitely be in and out of online for the rest of the evening. And shout out to Hermetica. Love their stuff, man. Great stuff.
Yeah, get some USD. That USDH yield is printing right now, just so you know.
15% now today.
Yeah, it's
shot up. I don't know exactly how. I don't know all of the mechanics. It went all the way down because I read it every day. I check it every morning. It's part of my morning show. Like I give the actual percentage. It was down like 1% for a day. And I'm not sure exactly what the mechanics are that got it there, but we're shooting back up. It like went to 1, and then it was like 6, and then it was like 11, and then 15. So it's big yield for $1.
Yeah, and I'll just give you we'll talk about actually Hermetica at some point in terms of their yield mechanisms, because the reason why it was at 1% is because there was a ton of shorts in the market, and now there's a bunch of longs in the market. So that's why the yield is nice and high. So, but we'll get into that someday. It might be a good conversation so people because you can relate it back to trading, because that's how the yield is generated. It's actually really cool.
We should definitely talk about that. And if it's not on a Learn TA show, maybe we'll talk about it one night on the night show.
For sure. Yeah, I gotta try to get back in there with you guys. It's been a little while.
I'm pretty sure we're not doing it for the rest of the week because GP is on vacation.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll pick it back up Monday, unless you see otherwise. I don't know. But I think you never know with him. He's kind of a workaholic. He says he's taking the day off, and then all of a sudden he shows up anyway. He's a good dude.
Well, I wish him well.
Place to go into that explanation on Hermetica.
For sure. Yeah, and actually I'm going to jump to a Hermetica space right now. So Peace, I appreciate you. Much love to you, and I'll catch you next week.
All right. Thank you, Landy. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We are DeOrganized. This is Learn TA with Landy every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Thank you all for tuning in. Y'all have a blessed night. Thank you, Landy. Peace out.